Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ptp After Dark. Yeah, so I know Trump and, what's his face? Elon Musk are doing something on X right now. But I just can't bring myself to stream it. I really don't have an interest in it. What's up, Jim Bob? And Helen Dixon, how are you doing? Welcome. I just don't have an interest in it. I just was looking at what was it? TikTok, and there's like 50 live streams that are live streaming it, and I'm sure everybody here on Pilled is, and I just don't want to. So I have some stories that I want to do tonight. Not only 3 of them, but the first one that I want to talk about is the Young Turks, and they interviewing people at a Trump rally about the Board of Education and Project 2025. And when I watched this, I found it very interesting what these people had to say. Probably not at all what they wanted them to say, but what they did say makes a lot of sense. What's up, Slanty Sofa Bear? Yeah, I don't expect a oh, was it, Helen? Yeah, I guess it's okay now because I just shut it off. And I know there's not going to be a lot of people here, but that's okay. I don't mind. We'll just do our thing and not worry about nothing. So let me say welcome to the few people who are here on YouTube, D Live, and my ex. I don't know if anybody's watching over there. And thank you for you guys for hanging out with me over on Build. So, what's up, Trash Man Green? Anyway, let's get to the first thing. The Young Turks here. And we'll make comments as we go along.
Of the LGBTQ issues. There's something here called Project 2025 that really does not shine a great light. And how do you feel about it? And how do you feel the other side is talking about it?
Yeah, that seems to be what most Democrats are saying we should watch out for, that all citizens should watch out for, that they should vote Democrat and they should not vote for Trump, using it kind of as a scare tactic. I do believe that that Project 2025 is not a part of Trump's agenda. I think I'm pretty positive he said that he does not know who created 2025.
Well, what he did say was that that's not part of the platform. But he knows them because a lot of them worked in his administration, and presumably some will. The Heritage Foundation is a pretty big conservative think tank.
Yeah, but it's not Trump's main campaign.
Correct.
And I think the misconception is a lot of Democrats believe it is, and I read through some of 2025, not all of it. Some of the policies I thought were okay. Taking some funds away from education, because right now our education system isn't that good anyways.
Would you? And you see, that's a big thing with the Democrats, not the people, but the Democrat politicians, because the Board of Education gets billions funneled through it. And that money gets used for almost everything but education. It's like a gigantic slush fund for politicians. And the thought of getting rid of the Board of Education and giving it to the states to make those decisions is very scary for the political parties in this country.
Agree with, I mean, it says let's get rid of the Department of Education.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's, I think there's room for change. Our country hasn't changed in so many years. We've been doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's time to mix things up because nothing has been significantly better in quite some time.
You'd mentioned education. One of the Project 2025 proposals is to abolish the Department of Education. Where would you stand on that?
Yes, because I think it should go back to the states to make a lot of those decisions. I guess there needs to be maybe someone still in charge, but not making the decisions for all the states. States' rights. And that's the way I feel about it. I was PTA president about.
Now, what is wrong with that answer? That answer that she gave, that it should go back to the states. What does the federal government know about somebody in Long Beach, California, my school district, where a couple of my kids went to? Right? What did the federal government know about the Clark County school board or school system when my kids lived in Nevada and they went to school there when I lived in Nevada? Absolutely zero. Yet they're in charge of the public school system. It should be left to the states, and it should not be a government institution, period.
6 years.
One of the other parts of Project 2025 is to abolish the Department of Education. Would you be in support of that?
Abolish the department. Yes, I think that was a good idea. That I didn't really know much of it, but I heard now they were talking about it at the convention. And if it's something Trump is suggesting that needs to be done, then I see what's happening in our school system. It's a huge problem. You're indoctrinating our children, and while the Democrats are talking about the Republicans want to control our bodies. Let me ask you something. What did they do to us with the vaccine? You controlled our bodies by ordering us to take a vaccine.
Well, that was President Trump.
Well, not the way I see it. Not that way. No.
Well, I mean, I think
he wasn't going to order people to take that vaccine. That went into Biden. And I'll tell you something else. You fire New York City firefighters, police officers, all city workers because they didn't take a vaccine. That's just wrong. You can't just start firing people that were the ones who were helping.
I beg to differ on what you just said, but it was President Trump who put all that effort and energy.
Donald Trump left it up to the governors of the states to make mandates. Did he do the Operation Warp Speed shit? Yes. Okay, yeah. We're not going to mix words. Did he take the vaccine? Yeah. Okay, whatever. But it was the governors, wasn't Trump, who mandated vaccines and put all those people out of work. As a matter of fact, that Waltz guy, that's Cumbag Harris's VP pick, put 110,000 people out of work in his state because of vaccine mandates. So maybe he should get his facts straight.
And into getting a vaccine, and did it in very, very little time.
Yes, he did get it started, but he wasn't ordering everyone being forced to take the vaccine.
He was taking it, and he was saying that vaccine mandates at that time were acceptable and prudent.
Acceptable and prudent, though. There you go. Acceptable and prudent.
And no one was forcing people to take vaccines, but there were consequences to not get the vaccine. What do you think of Project 2025?
I don't understand what the concern is. Project 25 is a Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank. What they're trying to do is they're trying to find people who could be slotted into the administration as soon as possible. I don't understand why there's a problem there.
Well, it seems to want to take the Justice Department and put it under executive control entirely. it seems to want to really make it more difficult for minorities, particularly sexual minorities in this country, to get their voices heard.
What does sexual minorities have to do with anything? Right? This is what they have to make the argument about. Sexual, what's up, Call for Life? Minorities. That has nothing to do with anything. But since they can't win the argument on the merits of the argument, they have to interject shit.
And their issues.
Yeah, I don't see. Look, I haven't read the whole thing. I just kind of, briefly know about it. I haven't seen any example where they're trying to do that.
Have you paid attention to Project 2025 at all?
I have heard a little bit about it, but President Trump has denied any connection with it. So I believe it's being forced on him as like a black mark.
Thank you for
trying
the
to create
cookie
a
tip.
situation where you're associating that project, whatever it is,
Rooster.
with Donald Trump.
And what about this Project 2025, giving control, which, is written up by former Trump administration officials at the Heritage Foundation? One of the things in it is that it would give control over the Justice Department and criminal law enforcement to the president directly rather than departmentally. Does that sit well with you?
And believe it or not, the Justice Department is the only department that is in the Constitution. Oh, no, I missed that memo, Qual for Life. Thank you for reminding me. I missed that one. The Department of Justice should be under the executive branch. As a matter of fact, it is under the executive branch because the president is the only one who can appoint the head of the Department of Justice. So technically, it is. But constitutionally, there are no other departments except for the Supreme Court, which is one of the three branches of government that are legal. And they should all be taken away.
I haven't read it. I've heard a lot about it, and it's the Heritage Foundation. It's not our party platform. It's not Donald J. Trump. I don't think it's the majority of Republicans, but it sounds like it's a little on the stricter side.
I want to ask you a little bit about education. The Department of Education, in that document, Project 2025, they say they would get rid of the Department of Education. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm a former school board member, and so I'm a big proponent of public education. I think there's some issues. I think it can be fixed without eliminating it. There's some value to having a central location to spread funds out around the states and some goals. Is it too powerful right now? I think it is.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in local control of schools. What's best for Alexander City, Alabama, is not necessarily what's best for Los Angeles, California.
That's exactly what I said in the beginning. Vanita, thank you for the tip of the shades. I appreciate that. Welcome to you. She's absolutely right. If you want to budget however many billions of dollars a year for the Department of Education, then what you should do is give the parents the money and let them make the decision on where their children go to school. The funds have to be used for their child's education. Simple as that. And get government out of the mix. Because the public education system from kindergarten all the way to college is corrupt. Is bad corrupt. And if they're going to keep doing that, then they might as well just go full on with school choice. What's up, Spaz? Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
And we need that flexibility to be able to make those decisions for what's best for our community.
Yep. And I thought that most of the people all of the people basically, that they talked to as far as Trump supporters, this was the last one, as far as Trump supporters go, were very level-headed about their responses. There is no reason for the Department of Education to exist. Zero. I can't think of one. I'll say under the Department of Education in the last 25 years, our country's youth has gone stupid. And Joe Biden, specifically, in his 4 years, has used Department of Education funds as a weapon for forcing them to teach critical race theory, which didn't sit well with a few states. And Kamala Harris was all for it. Our country is, I can't even say, in the top 10 of anything, education-wise. That's thanks to our public school system and the corrupt Department of Education. So I think for the Young Turks to put out something like that, asking Trump supporters about the Department of Education, they were pretty spot on. And the thing about the Department of Justice is that it already falls under the executive branch. But it should be enforced. So there also should be several other departments that should be eliminated immediately, including the IRS. The Internal Revenue Service should be deleted immediately. And then everything that was installed from September 11th that has to do with personal privacy needs to go. The NSA, Homeland Security, TSA, and everything else all need to go. So that's where I stand on any of that stuff, including most of the CIA and almost all of the FBI. They should all of those officers should be incorporated into local, state jurisdictions, not governmental. So that's how I feel about that. And I know a lot of you feel the same way. So, okay, let's get on to the next one. Like I said, this is not going to be a horrendously long show tonight.
Campaign scrambling to put out the fire sparked by the military record of Kamala's running mate, Tim Walz. They had just had to clean up some false comments about that he made, carrying a weapon, quote, in war, saying the governor simply misspoke. But the stolen valor accusations, they keep coming. Listen to his former military superior.
Tim Walz knew the processes and the procedures. He went around me and above and beyond me and went to get somebody to back him to get him out of there without. It was just a backdoor process.
So the Kamala campaign, they try to keep it quiet. They're not talking about it. Then on.
Okay, just to let you know, because I like to do disclosure on what I hear. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. But this whole stolen valor thing is not boding well for the Harris campaign. There are some people, supposedly, in her campaign who want to drop Tim Walz out of the race because they're not going to be able to get around his military record. Yeah. Now, whether that's accurate or not, I don't know. Like I said, small websites that I look at, you look at an article here and there. Just saying, if that comes to fruition, great. If it doesn't, great. We'll just keep on keeping on.
Friday night, and you know that's when all the stuff gets buried. They put out a statement saying he misspoke, and the media then immediately shifted to, good for them for admitting it. Okay, now we can all move on.org. And then you think about the same media that they took Brett Kavanaugh's high school yearbook and like got the Ouija board out and tried to figure it out. It took people on the internet 5 minutes to figure out that this was actually something that had happened, this embellishment.
We all misspeak. I once misspoke in Iraq during a Operation Desert. No.
And this is, I hate to cut it off again, but one of the things that's really messing with people today is what he said about Bagram Air Force Base. That he was at a ceremony at Bagram Air Force Base. He was never there in Afghanistan. Then his people came out and said he was there in 2011. And people in his campaign came out and said he's never been to Afghanistan. The closest he's been is Italy on a training mission. He's never been to Bagram Air Force Base. And that was from people who worked in his campaign. So there's a lot coming out. Could be in the next few days. I don't know.
I will defer to people who served, whether or not this is stolen valor or not. But I have, and they're pretty loud and clear that this guy peddled a greater version of his service. And Joey Jones was on my show Friday, and he said something that was really perceptive. When he exaggerated his service or he never corrected anyone when they would indulge his embellishments, he was denigrating his own service, basically saying that my service in the National Guard wasn't good enough. So I had to say these things because, and then you kind of know that he denigrated it because he also denigrated others in the National Guard by saying they're just 19-year-old cooks when he had the opportunity to have them come in and quell the rioting and the arson. But I think the most adolescent argument that you're going to find is, well, you didn't serve and Trump didn't go. It's like, well, yeah, I never said he did. I never said anything. I never said I did. You know, it's not about serving, morons. It's about lying about service, which is why bringing up Walz's 24 years in the National Guard as a way out of this debate is BS. Stolen valor is almost entirely performed by people who have served. That's why vets hate it so much, because it's usually somebody in that world. Yeah. It's not like Brian going around telling everybody, you know, he was a Green Beret anymore.
He just wore one.
Yes, yeah, and that's all he wore when he used to dance at Chippendales. But Walt's defenders, they pivot to that like, but he served because they know that Waltz is.
You see, here's the thing. Nobody's questioning his service, just like he's saying. Nobody's questioning he did 24 years in the National Guard. Thank you. Nobody's questioning that. But when, like he said, you embellish your rank, your combat experience, your this, that, and the other thing, that's the problem. 24 years in the service is something to be fucking proud of. I don't care who you are. But to embellish it for political gain is something that should not be tolerated. And that's why they made laws against it. And he should be prosecuted if this is the case.
It's been caught dead to rights.
Brian.
What's up, Q&A?
I'll just go to the, like you said, let's go to the people that serve. Tom Behrens took his place, told the New York Post he believes Waltz is a traitor and a coward who claims valor. And then when it comes to 9/11, 20 years ago, to mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11, he spoke to veterans saying he remembered being at Bagram Air Base for a ramp ceremony, and he still thinks about it to this day. He's never in Afghanistan. So I think this is issues that should be brought up because you want to know what else he's not telling the truth.
And the thing about what he just said is that somebody in the campaign said he was there as a congressman in 2011. And that was a lie also. That was also a lie. That they had to walk back and say he misspoke. That's what they're saying he misspoke about. So he was never in Afghanistan, but used that for political gain. What's up, Dr. Vales?
About it doesn't mean you don't respect him for serving 25 years. I do. I also think you should talk about how it catapulted his career because the military enabled him to go to college in order to move forward in his life.
Harold Ford Jr., what do you think?
So I think two things. First, it was sloppy what he said, and it was wrong. And I'm glad they corrected it, and I'll be interested in hearing Governor Waltz talk about this when he sits down for an interview. Two, I understand what Greg is saying, and that I think that those of us who have not served, who say I didn't serve and he served 24 years, I do think there's something to that because he still did serve 24 years. But your point is well taken. I think Democrats should understand as well. You can't be accused of stolen valor if you didn't serve. Yeah. So that part of it is absolutely true. It's important to note that he is the highest enlisted person. Put aside the words, the highest enlisted person to ever be on a presidential ticket in the history of our country, Democrat or Republican running for president. I salute Senator Vance. I saw one of the great things I saw a reporter from another network host who had been critical of Senator Vance have on someone who was a commander or who he reported to when he was in the Marines. And this woman said, I don't agree with his politics, but he was as good a Marine that ever worked for me, that ever reported to me. I give them great credit for that. I thank him for that. And I'm sure there are those that serve with Governor Walz who are going to say positive things. And there are obviously those who, whatever the motivations are, who will say the things that you quoted, Brian, and even what we saw in the lead-in.
Harold, how dare you? George Washington was a general. Judge, give you the last word.
He was not enlisted. I'm talking about enlisted in 17.
Look,
Eisenhower
all
too.
of the media is going nuts, and they're going to bat for Walz. The same media, if Donald Trump is on television, if you don't have someone who's going to fact check his lies, they have a fit. Okay? But with Walz, it's okay. He can lie. Let me tell you something. There's a reason why in a court of law, you could say to a jury, if you believe a witness has lied to you about a fact, a material fact, you are free to disregard that person's entire testimony. Yeah. So this guy lied about carrying weapons of war in war. That's not misspeaking. That's a lie. Number two, abandoned his unit, went around his own leader to get someone to give him permission to leave, okay? And the people who are upset about that are the mothers of the son of one of the people in his battalion who was 19 years old and died, all right? Then carrying the title, another lie, Command Sergeant Major, that he didn't finish the requirements for, is he glommed onto the title according to everyone who's a senior in the National Guard. That is a lie. And trying to convince the American people when he's talking to veterans, quote, I stood in the dark of night on the tarmac in Bagram. That was in 2011 with a congressional delegation as opposed to 2021 in Afghanistan when it mattered. Donald Trump.
He wasn't there in 2011. That's what they said. And that's where she's getting her information from. Apparently, he was never in country. Ever. According to his own campaign. Well, staff on his own campaign.
Never lied. This guy is a liar.
All right.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube.
This is not going to bode well with a lot of Americans, regardless of how much you hate Trump. It's affecting their campaign as we speak right now. Like I said, I'm not sure if that information that they may want to replace him because of this is valid or not. You know, you got to take things with a grain of salt in today's politics. But there are a lot of people, including a lot of Democrats, who have served their country. Not saying that Tim Walz didn't serve his country, but that served their country, that didn't lie about it, that are not happy with it. I made an argument a few days ago about, God forbid, something happened to Kamala Harris if she was president, and he had to become president of the United States, the commander-in-chief of the military. How would they look at the commander-in-chief knowing everything that they know about him? I think it would be difficult to follow those orders, knowing that he ducked combat and he's going to order you to combat. You know what I mean? I've never served. I've never been in combat, in the military, so on and so forth. So that world, to me, is not unfamiliar, but I can't speak on it. But there's a lot of people grumbling right this minute, and it's not good grumblings. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. I like to throw it out there. If I read it, if I see it, then maybe a couple of 3-4 days, a week later, we pan it out. We'll see what happens. So, okay. Well, thank you guys for all hanging out with me. I appreciate it. I got one more story, and then that's all we got for tonight. So let's get to this one.
I believe that Kamala Harris is whatever she says she is, but I believe importantly that President Trump is right that she's a chameleon.
Donald Trump's running mate / new attack dog, J.D. Vance, made a Sunday show sweep over the weekend, doubling down on the former president's attack on Kamala Harris's racial.
Oh, before we get started, there are some people out there who apparently J.D. Vance, back when he was young, was like a punk rocker or something to that effect, and was dressed kind of weird. I don't know if he was dressed in women's clothes or he looked like a woman. I don't know. But people making that claim, does that sound very Beto O'Rourke-ish to you guys? When they said, well, just because he was in a dress doesn't mean he's no less of a man. If you remember that. That might come out about J.D. Vance in the next couple of days. You guys might see some pictures. So maybe you want to prepare yourself for that.
Identity. Joining us now, former RNC chairman and co-host of The Weekend right here on MSNBC, Michael Steele. I hate saying doubling down because we're always doubling down on something in politics.
Yeah.
All right. So this idea that she's not who she says she is, or she's trying to play the race card, I mean, it's been widely seen as race baiting from Donald Trump. What do you think that they are just diving back into it? They are, as you know, I'm going to say again, doubling down.
Yeah, they are. They're tripling down on that. Look, she's a black woman. and she's also an Asian woman. She's got that, you know,
Thank you,
hey,
Sean.
you know, JD and Trump, people can be more than one thing, you know?
So, do you now consider Indian, Asian? Is that what they're trying to say? You can be more than one thing, but when your parents come out and say, you're not this, she's not black. She has more Irish than black in her. Does that not count? That your own parents come out and call her a liar? Does that mean nothing to these people? Be proud of who you are. If you're an Indian, be proud of being Indian. But I don't know why they call it Asian. I don't know. But anyway.
I mean, you're maybe part Irish and part German.
Excuse me, no, I am Greek. Can you see it in my tan? Thank you very much.
Right. Exactly, Kate. That's the point. But here's the underlying narrative. This is not playing to the vast majority of Americans. This is playing to a very isolated faction of the country that's important to. They're not enthralled by a black.
No, it's not important. It's not important that she's black or not. It's important that she's lying about it. That's what's important. Just like it was important when Hillary Clinton pulled out hot sauce out of her purse when she did a black radio show. Or when she was campaigning in Georgia and she had a Southern accent. That's what's important. Hillary Clinton is from New York. She's not from Arkansas. She's not from Alabama or Georgia. She doesn't have a Southern accent. That's what's important. Lying to your constituents is what's important.
Woman running for the office, so we want to make it a pejorative. We want to talk about it in a negative way. We don't want to level it up as something that is small p progressive for the country to have an African American woman who is the current vice president running for president.
She has no African American lineage. None. You as a black man, you should be the first one to be calling it out. That she's appropriating your culture.
That's a different storyline. So, look, we know what's going on here. We all get it. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to play in that cesspool of stupid, thinking that they're swaying people more broadly. This campaign has proven itself to be one of contraction, not addition, not multiplication. It's doubling down, tripling down, as you noted, on that core base vote. Donald Trump's thinking, his logic, because he's such a political guru, is that the more of my MAGA comes out, the greater my chances of winning, which triggers, oddly enough, the whole fixation on crowd size, because the crowd size have diminished for him. Kamala's has not. And that, more than anything else, is why he did that press conference, to say to his base, y'all need to get back in the game with me because I need you. Again, this is not about addition and multiplication. It is about contraction around getting his base to push out and win the election for him.
I'm sorry, dumbass, but who else is going to win the election for him if not his base? Because if you were any honest, you would be looking at the independent voters, which are ticking up in the past 2 days and 3 days for Donald Trump. I said this morning. The more Kamala and that douche nugget open his mouth, the more independents are going to Trump. So keep it up.
Democrats, I'm curious about what the Democrats have in front of them, but the New York Times is reporting that Donald Trump doesn't quite know how to run against Kamala Harris, and we've seen obviously examples of that, the way that he's trying to grab back attention in the headlines with all of the volatile stuff he's been saying. But looking down the line, again, we're less than 100 days out from the election. What are the speed traps you see for the Democrats ahead?
Oh, there are. There are a number of speed traps, and a lot of them, ironically enough, are going to be on policy. It's not going to be on the style and the energy and the interest in the campaign, where the Democrats.
So are you saying you can't run a country on style and crowd sizes? You actually have to have some policy? For real? I thought Kamala can just win because she's Kamala. And that's enough. But you need some policy. That's a speed bump, right? That's a speed bump for this campaign, is policy.
Have now got to begin to align itself with the voters is on the narrative of, okay, we didn't have a real sense of what a second Biden term would look like. You now need to fill in what a first Harris term will look like. And that's where you're getting a lot of pushback from members of the press saying you won't sit down with us, have you talk to us? Okay, it's been 3 weeks, folks. So give her the time to sort of put that together. But absolutely, by the time she wrote...
I'm sorry. It's been 3 weeks. Give her time to put it together. She's been the vice president for 4 years. She has no clue about domestic policy, foreign policy, nothing. She has to steal Donald Trump's not to tax tips, which that's what we're calling gold pills or tips, so I don't pay taxes on them. So send me as many tips as you want, tax-free. You need more? You need more than 4 years to figure that out. Stupid. Thank you for the cookie tip, intolerant leftist.
Rolls into Chicago, and certainly when she rolls out of Chicago, she will have to have begun to lay the seeds for narratives on health care, child care, the border, foreign policy. How much of a distance is she going to create between her administration and the Biden administration relative to Israel, relative to the Palestinian question? So there are going to be a number of things where I think there's going to be potential speed bumps that could impact momentum, could impact the energy, and certainly realign the numbers, as you were talking with our buddy Mark about some of the polling earlier, realign those numbers, make it a little bit more tighter than a 4 or 5 point race to a 2-3 point race. We'll see. But a lot of it's going to be dependent on how she approaches policy on her side.
And she's apparently says she will be coming out with a policy news conference or event soon.
At the end of this month.
One other question, though, on the subject of the word weird and how Tim Walz was able to use it and the Democrats attach themselves to it and it's working. It makes Donald Trump not seem so powerful, but also just less than in the Democrat side, something that they've been looking for the past 8 years. Can they overdo it on the word weird? Is that potentially going to be a problem?
Can Trump overdo it?
I was listening to an Ezra Klein podcast today where he was warning against all of the Democrats coming on and overusing weird, that it works for Tim Walz because Tim Walz is, a Midwestern guy from a town of 400 and he, he's at those Thanksgiving dinner tables where some of the family members are Trump supporters. It works for him. But worried the Democrats if they started using weird too much.
Well,
might get themselves into trouble. Might take away the power of that word.
Nah, that's the nervous Nelly side of the Democratic Party.
The power of the word weird. What the fuck does that even mean? Because everybody on TikTok is using that. Because TikTok is a left platform. So everybody uses that word. MAGA is weird. What a stupid conversation.
Lean into the fight, for heaven's sake. Good God. He's second guessing a strategy that's working. So everyone picks it up and run with it. I mean, you'll know if it becomes too much. Is it too much? Lock her up? Was that too much? All the crazy stuff that comes out of Trump land, talking, I mean, all the time we spent, you heard other people out there talking about sharks and electric vehicles, I mean, electric batteries. Look, the reality of it is, it works. There's something, what Tim...
You know, something that Trump should learn is don't make any more jokes about anything. Don't be sarcastic. Don't make jokes about anything. Because these people are too stupid just to let it go as a joke or as being sarcastic. They're too stupid. They have to show their stupidity every single time. So he should learn, just keep your mouth shut.
Walz did was he crystallized in one word what people already believe, but never really had the word to fit it. And so that's why it works. That's why the whole narrative around J.D. Vance stuck the way it did, because regardless of whether what they were saying on Twitter about J.D. Vance was true, what was important and what people missed was that people actually believed it. And that tells you a lot about what people think about these candidates.
Yeah, it tells you a lot. It tells you these people are too stupid to look into anything themselves. They're too lazy and too stupid to look into anything. That whatever they see on the mainstream media, they take it at its word. Exactly what the Democrat and Republican Party want. A bunch of mindless sheep. Bah. That's exactly what they want. Fueled by the education system. Keep pointing that out. Keep pointing it out. And eventually, somebody's going to say, hey, there's something wrong here.
So if you level up a word like weird and it takes off and people are like using it and they're like, yeah, that's weird. Yeah, they're weird. That's because they believe they're weird. And that's good narrative. And so you don't want to overdo it, like every word out of your mouth shouldn't be weird.
Yeah.
But in the context of a conversation, every once in a while you go, yeah, that's really kind of weird, Katie. I'm sorry, that's just weird. And let it go.
All right, Michael, I got to let it go right now. Thank you
There you
very
go.
much, my friend.
Yeah, so this is what their campaign is about. This is what their political campaign is about. It's not what's real, right? It's not what's reality. It's what you can make them believe. That's all. It's what you can make them believe. Because we know, as the mass media, that the people we're targeting are too lazy and stupid to do any research. If they want to do research on Tim Walz's military escapades, we'll just deny it. And our people are so stupid, they won't even look into it. They'll just believe it. Those are the people who are in the Matrix. And we're the ones who have to figure out how to go in and out and get those people one by one. Make them realize that not everything is what it seems to be. That you're living in a candy-coated world that doesn't exist, only in the box that you're watching. Whether It's your phone, your TV, your computer, whatever. The reality of it is, it doesn't exist except in that space. And we have to make sure we keep trying to unplug people from it. And we do that every day. Or at least try to, by showing this shit that we show. So anyway, that's all I got. Like I said, not a very long show today or tonight. I just didn't want to do the Trump thing tonight. So thank you guys over on DLive, X, and YouTube for hanging out. I appreciate it. And of course, everybody who threw a tip my way from Pilled on the gold pills, the red pills, or the blue pills. Thank you so much. Tomorrow's Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Left Coast time for a regular show. And then tomorrow night for That's a Great Question podcast. So a big day tomorrow. Hopefully I'll have some voice. We'll see what happens. But we'll do the best that we can. So until then, thank you guys. Appreciate you all. And I'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a good night.